So, hello, welcome to another Facebook Live. For those of you who have no idea who I am, my name's Rick Cardwell, and I'm a counsellor and a therapist. I work with a lot of stress and anxiety issues as well as relationships. So, kind of continuing on the theme of last night, really, maybe the night before, I think I was busy last night, on trauma bonding. What is trauma bonding? It's kind of a phrase that some people bounce about in relation to narcissistic relationships, let's say. So there's one or two things that people have said have been a little bit confusing as to what they think trauma bonding is. So I'm just going to explain to you what trauma bonding is and how it happens and what are the behaviors of you may exhibit if you're experiencing trauma bonding, let's say. It's very, very much part of abusive relationships. We all know that narcissistic relationships are very abusive. So trauma bonding is very similar to the Stockholm Syndrome. And the Stockholm Syndrome is when people who are held captive come to develop feelings of trust or even affection for the very people who are holding them captured, let's say, or holding them against their will. You create these emotions for them, even though they are your captors. They may have kidnapped you or, locked you away. But there's this Stockholm Syndrome that means that you can develop emotional feelings towards your captors, let's say. And that's very much a survival strategy to help you to survive a very traumatic situation. But this type of survival strategy can occur in relationships and does occur in relationships quite frequently. And it's called trauma bonding. And it can occur and often occurs when a person is in a relationship with a narcissist. And what that means is trauma bonding means that it can be very common for you to deny the fact that the situation you are in is abusive or destructive or traumatic because you're in this state of trauma bonding. So that means that you are unable to see the fact that you are in a particularly bad relationship for yourself, and you become blind to that, which I'm just going to touch on now. So trauma bonding is it's a dysfunctional attachment that occurs in the presence of danger, shame, or exploitation. So if you're in a relationship that can be dangerous, that can make you feel shameful, or where you are being exploited, then the trauma bonding is the attachment that can develop within that dangerous, shameful, exploitative relationship, let's say. And within that trauma bond, the victim or the narcissist, let's say the narcissist partner, as opposed to the victim, although that's my general reference to a narcissistic partner, they are often very much of a personality type that is codependent. They have codependent issues within the relationship. And what that means is when the relationship starts off with the narcissist or with the abusive person, they feel initially very loved, they feel very cared for, they experience the thoughts of lots of emotions around the relationship, and it feels very good for them. Then those really nice feelings, the feeling of love and care, they begin to erode away, they begin to disappear over time, and the emotional, mental, and sometimes physical abuse takes over the relationship. And that can be over sometimes a short period of time and sometimes over a bit of a lengthier period of time. But all the good stuff that you experience at the beginning of the relationship is literally eroded away, and you start to experience the negative side of the abusive relationship, of the narcissistic relationship, let's say. And if you manage to break free from that relationship, or you begin to recognize that things aren't right and you feel uncomfortable about that and you want to make a decision to get out of the relationship, all the narcissist has to do is go back to that courtship phase, that showing some love and showing some affection to win the partner back. And that will happen very, very easily when they start to show love and affection, and they will fall back into the relationship. And the more the codependent reaches out to the narcissist for love, for recognition and approval, then the more the trauma bond is kind of reinforced and strengthened. So if there is a to-ing and fro-ing of this abuse and then love and abuse and love, and then you keep going back to the relationship, that is reinforcing the trauma bonding more and more, so you find yourself more trapped within the relationship. And that means you're going, the codependent will stay in the relationship when the abuse escalates, and that creates a really destructive cycle that that particular person is actually stuck in. And it's not a healthy place to be at all when you get to that state. And that is far more common than what people realize. We tend to look at people in abusive relationships and just say, "Well, just get out of it, walk away." People who have trauma bonding find that exceptionally difficult to do. So we all know that when you're in an abusive relationship or a narcissistic relationship, it's difficult because the relationship is very unpredictable. So that means that you might find yourself not being able to say certain things for fear of anger or rage. You can't speak the truth often, or you cut the certain elements of conversation that you can't talk about, and you're constantly walking around on eggshells, worrying about when the next episode of abuse is going to happen. And that's classic of all abusive relationships, which is very typical of trauma bonding. Um, but the narcissist or the abuser will constantly betray you in the relationship. But if you are in a trauma bond, then you will always give them another chance. And that's because you've invested your trust into the relationship. And then the trust becomes blind to the destruction, which is a very unhealthy place to be. Trust is a major issue in all relationships. Abusive relationships tend to erode our trust, take our trust away as an individual. So we trust on them, but our own trust becomes blinded to the actual destructive behaviors of the abuser or the narcissist. We don't actually see it. Also, within trauma bonding, you feel responsible for the other person's happiness, the narcissist happiness. There's something about us that takes responsibility to think that we are responsible for making them feel happy and for making them feel good. And we will even sacrifice a lot of things that we would normally do for ourselves. We'll sacrifice pretty much anything to make that abuser feel happy. Because what we're trying to do is make things work, and you're working really hard at making things work by trying to keep the abusive partner happy, that you lose all your sense of self, of who you are as a person. And that's exactly what the narcissist wants, of course, for you to lose your sense of purpose and your values so that you're codependent on them more and more. And the cycle of abuse, let's say, will often include periods of reward for yourself, which is what you cling on to. So there are periods in narcissistic relationships where they may be thoughtful or buy something or do something nice. So you'll get these periods of affection or reward, let's say, and you cling on to those. You cling on to those in a way that you want those to continue and to last. So you then try harder to please your partner to extend the pleasant period for as long as you can. And by doing that, by trying to please your partner, by doing everything that they want to extend this period of pleasantness, let's say, what you do is you neglect yourself, you forget your own values, you forget what's good for you, you avoid speaking your mind to prioritize their needs over absolutely everything. And then eventually you feel burnt out. You emotionally stress to a point where you can't cope any longer. And that's because you've neglected your own self care, your own looking after yourself in a healthy way in your mind. And that is really breaking you down to be completely broken, under control, codependent, and you've massively strengthened this trauma bond there that's holding you in this really horrible negative place. A very, very difficult place to be. And you'll know that abusive people, narcissistic people, um, tell a lot of lies, things like, well, I won't do that again. It'll never happen again. I'm sorry. It shouldn't have happened. But those are all lies. And if you don't act on those lies and you accept those lies, then what you are doing is you are strengthening more and more the trauma bond as they create a feeling of hope to cling on to. This trauma bond is trying to help you to create the relationship in a way that you think it can work. So the more that you believe the lies and the deceit, the more you strengthen that bond because you are creating the hope that you cling to that the relationship may be able to work out in the future. So those lies will strengthen the trauma bonding because you're emotionally attached to the other person. And that creates that feeling of hope and desperation, actually. Um, but the emotion overrides the intellect. The intellectual side of it is that you know there's abuse, you know that it's not a good relationship, you know that the lies aren't true, but that clinging to hope allows your emotions to take over because our emotions will always be stronger than our intellect in a situation like that. And we allow that emotion to get in the way to make the decisions for us. And we cling to that hope that they can change or that you can make the relationship work and things will get better in the future. But all that does is cause you a lot more hurt, causes you to break down more, and that again strengthen that trauma bond. And so the cycle continues in a really unhealthy, negative way and becomes even more problematic for you because, of course, the abuse increases as your trauma bond increases because the narcissist knows that they can get away with more abuse because you are not likely to leave them or to do anything about the abuse, but believe the lies and the pseudo apologies after the event. So it's the combination of trauma bonding is the combination of denial that there's a problem, of blinding your trust, manipulation, and emotional attachment. And those elements make the relationship very, very difficult to leave. And that's really why when we see people in abusive relationships, we they don't leave, and we say, well, why don't they leave? It's obvious that they should leave. It's a horrible place to be. It's very destructive. It's clearly not good for anybody. But they don't leave because of this factor of trauma bonding, which is created massively by the abuser, but a personality type, let's say, or the place that we're put into helps us to keep reinforcing that trauma bond, which is why the frustration of people that get stuck in these relationships and stay in these relationships for many, many years, having no quality of life, not enjoying life, and constantly wishing that things were different, but believing that they can make it different when there's no evidence at all that they ever have made it any different or they ever will make it any different. And so they get stuck in that cycle. So I hope that helps you if you have an understanding now of trauma bonds. If you find yourself in a relationship and you're not really sure about what's going on for you and you want to discuss it with me, then just drop me a private message. We'll discuss things in complete confidentiality. I'm always happy to try and give you some healthy support or let you know how things work so that you can figure things out for yourself. And don't be afraid to ask. So many people bring themselves to the point of wanting to ask for help and even go through the process of, say, messaging me, and then just retreat through fear of familiarization because of that trauma bonding, that trap that they're in. And it's so frustrating, not so much for me, I understand the situation, but so frustrating for so many people that they can't get out of these relationships because of that element of trauma bonding. But there's always a way out. You're not a prisoner, you're not captive. There's a way out by changing the way that you feel about yourself, which will create different behaviors for yourself. And like I say, if you want advice on that, then just drop me a private message, and I'll always gladly answer your questions and point you in the right direction. Obviously, if you want professional therapy, just send me the message with the word yes in it. I will contact you, and we can have a free 45-minute private consultation to see if we can work together to work your issues out, see if we're suited, or otherwise I'll just give you some great support and great advice and help you to hopefully point you in the right direction to get your life sorted out, whether that's your relationship, your stress, your anxiety, or your depression. Please don't be afraid to ask. So thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow with another Facebook Live. And if you give me some questions, if you want me to do a live on something for you, I'll either answer that question directly for you, or I'll do a Facebook Live if I think the information might be relevant for other people as well. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Keep smiling, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. Take care.